I'm the best fisherman in MMA as well. Just so you guys know, I'm going fishing all day, all week.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Stranglers and Anglers MMA podcast. I'm here with my co-host, James. I'm JJ. Tonight, we are going to be breaking down a very exciting, a very special UFC 295 pay-per-view card, headlined by Jiri Prochazka taking on Alex Pereira. Jiri, James's dude, one of the favorite fighters on this pod. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into these fights and break them down, talk some bets. James, kick us off on this main event, dude. We got Jiri Prochazka taking on Alex Pereira in the 205-pound matchup for the 205-pound title, a title that Jiri technically never lost, that he had to relinquish due to injury. How you see this fight going, man?
Well, I was happy to see, I get worried about Pereira's size with Jiri because even though Yuri's a huge dude, Pereira's so giant, even though he made 185. Seeing them face off, Pereira's a little bit wider, a little thinner, Jiri, dude, looked taller than him, and maybe it's because of his hair, but he's about the same height as him, which surprised me because I feel like Pereira is like 6'5", even though they say he's like 6'4". Same with Jiri. They have Jiri listed at like 6'3", 6'4", and he looks like he's 6'5" as well. So I don't know, but the size is gonna be about equal. Yeah, dude, I said I wanted to go into some technical things that I see. So big things that I'm worried about for Jiri, or big factors, let's say. Jiri, like, because he's so in tunnel vision to try to get that finish and pressure and put the pressure on and land his own offense, he leaves his leg out there for the taking as far as the leg kick goes, the calf kick. And I mean, there's an old fight against him versus CB Dalloway, who was a decent UFC fighter who then went to Ryzen at the end of his career, where he knocked CB Dalloway into Pluto. But he pretty much was losing the first round because Dalloway was just hammering leg kicks and Jiri just wasn't defending them at all. Jiri switches stances, so that'll take away, he has that ability. So that's good on him, but it's going to take a lot more leg kicks to finish him than it would somebody else. But that's a big that's a big factor in this fight is Jiri versus the leg kicks and how he adjusts to it. In my mind, I would jump those leg kicks if you can see them because Pereira doesn't telegraph them, man. So it's tough, and they're down at the calf too. They're not like the old school leg kicks. But if I'm Jiri, I'd see those, and every time he throws one, I'd shoot a takedown or try to clinch every single time. So that's one factor in Pereira's favor. Another factor in Pereira's favor, obviously, Jiri leaving himself wide open all the time in every moment of the fight. That's his style. That's fine. But when you're going against a dude whose name is literally Stone Hands, things can happen in there. And I have no doubt in my mind that Jiri would not die from a leg kick, quit from a leg kick or turtle up because he's getting hit too much. He's not going to do that. But Pereira has that freakish one touch, like, end the fight, like, in similar fashion. So if Jiri ends up like how Adesanya ended up in the first fight, right? I don't think Jiri gets finished, right? But if he could end up how Strickland ended up. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like there's nothing you can do about that. You've been hit too hard and too perfectly, and that's it. So that's an X factor. However, the X factor on Jiri's side is the shot that Izzy landed against Pereira, that like aimed overhand where it comes over the top because Pereira uses it's almost like a George Foreman mummy guard. That's what they used to call it, where he grabs at the biceps and at the hands. It's almost too much of a parry. And so when Pereira does that, obviously he's amazing at it because he's one of the best kickboxers on the planet. But the way to get around that is to, instead of throwing like a true straight, he just comes a little bit over and actually tries to avoid the arm more than trying to hit the hand. And Jiri throws that. He threw it against Ozdemir. He threw it against Dominic Reyes. He throws it against all of his Ryzen opponents. That's Jiri's like best punch, is that weird overhand straight. It's almost like a combination of the two. So equally to Pereira's left hook that he throws, how dangerous it is for Jiri's style, I think Jiri's best punch is very dangerous for Pereira's style. But ultimately, I think if Jiri wants to win this fight, it comes down to him getting it to the ground and his weird, unique style versus a kickboxer that fights traditional kickboxers majority of his life, right? Do we see a Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury type deal where the awkward style, against a specialist is like odd to see the first time and kind of equals out that striking? So I'll let you talk now. I could go on for days about the fight. I'm so excited for it. But yeah, dude, that's those are all the factors that I see in this fight. I'm gonna go with my guy Jiri. I think all the odds and everything, the odds have come down a little bit from what I've seen, as far as it's getting real close to being a pick 'em almost. Um, yeah, dude. We'll see what happens. I think by the time this fight happens, it's gonna be basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, right on, man. Great breakdown. I'm on the Jiri side as well. I put a little bet on him. I got him at plus 105. It's not like the best line that's been out the last week or
Mm-hmm.
so, but I figured get in on him while he's plus money. If it flips the other side where Alex gets the plus money, then you got the option. You can kind of hedge out really easily if you're not feeling good about it. But yeah, man, I like everything you just said. The only thing I really have to add for a caveat is that I think, I'm not sold on Pereira at 205 yet. I think he's just fought at 185 his whole life kind of thing. And I think the Jan Blachowicz was one of the more winnable matchups for him, at 205. Dude, in hindsight, Jiri can look like such a big favorite here if he grapples effectively, man. I mean, we saw Izzy have some success grappling this dude, and let's not kid ourselves. Like, we just saw Jiri, like, coming off like, he tapped out Glover Texera.
His only
That's
submission
crazy.
loss in his career.
Yeah, it's nuts to think about that.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I couldn't believe what I was seeing either, but that's the type of thing that I just think when the fight when you got to dig deep and this fight gets past that, round or two where, I'm worried about Jiri looking a little bit, the ring rust, obviously. And then I'm curious to see how he looks physically, because there's just so much online rumors and talk of like conspiracies, people being like, oh, he wasn't really out with shoulder surgery. He was like USADA suspension. They just were keeping it quiet.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, where's the scar and stuff, but I'm curious to see how his physique looks and stuff tomorrow for the weigh-ins. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I just think that Yuri's got a lot more past the victory here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, dude. I mean, I cannot wait. I'll be texting you on that
Dude, yeah, man, the
during that
return of
shit.
your guy. It's been like 2
Yeah.
years. It's
Almost
crazy.
year and a half. Yeah, basically almost 2 years.
It's wild, man. All right, moving along. We got in the co-main event. We've got a replacement from John Jones or Stipe Miocic that was supposed to be for the heavyweight title on this card. We've got an interim title match now. We've got Sergei Pavlovich taking on Tom Aspinall. Another fight that is super closely lined, right? We got Pavlovich sitting at minus 102 right now. Aspinall, slight favorite, minus 115. James, I'll kick us off on this one. I was texting you this one, this fight just got me in a little bit of it's got my mind in a blender for sure. I've been going back and forth on it and mixing it up. I'm just going to say right now, I'm staying away from it just for the time being. I still haven't got to anything from a betting standpoint yet. Pavlovich has just looked like such a different fighter physically, since his loss to Overeem, that it's hard to pick against a guy like that who's going to bring it in the first round in the heavyweight division, right? He's like everything you kind of want in your typical heavyweight. In the On the other side, Tom Aspinall is like a super unique heavyweight in UFC history, like a guy who actually has really high level BJJ, good grappling, good boxing. On paper, Aspinall is far and away like the side as far as being a better mixed martial artist. It's just, man, this is a cage fight, right? And Tom Aspinall is coming in for this on shorter notice than Pavlovich is, because Pavlovich was going to weigh in regardless as the backup to the Miocic and Jones fight. So Pavlovich, got a full camp. it seems to be on point. Whereas I'm not like convinced that, like, I know Tom's in shape, that he stays in the gym. I'm just not convinced that he's quite in the same shape as Pavlovich. And it like Pavlovich is so dangerous early, and in theory, Tom Aspinall is going to be like smart to extend this fight a little bit. But I'm not like sure that Tom is going to be in peak physical condition here to extend that fight. Now with that said, like I really like Tom's grappling upside here. He can make it look easy if it gets to the ground, if he's able to hold Sergei down. We've seen Sergei get hammered before by Overeem. But to Sergei's defense too, right? He's no slouch grappling. He has had success grappling in the regionals and stuff. But I really like Tom Aspinall's leg kicks, man. If he can just chew up that lead leg of Sergei over a few rounds, like it's gonna get really hard for him to move, even after maybe the first round, right? And we just see like we haven't seen much of Sergei outside of the first round since his loss to Overeem. So I don't know, man. It's just such a hard fight to pick. My pick is going to be Aspinall right now, but like I said, no bet on either side. I do think that, like, even though Sergey has the ability to come out and be the one who ends this fight quicker standing, right? Like, over Aspinall has a better chance of coming out of this fight looking like the hindsight giant favorite. That's what I think.
Yeah,
What do you
that's a
think?
great way to put it. Yeah, dude, I think that watching a little bit more film today, Pavlovich, fast hands, stalker style, like pressure style. But yeah, those hands are just weird, dude. To have that long of reach and to still have that fast of hand speed and be a heavyweight is just like, you're really not going to come by that maybe ever. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it's as unique as it gets. However, Tom Aspinall's footwork at his size, he's about 250 right now, maybe more honestly. But his footwork at that size, dude, that is also a very unique trait. And
Yeah.
I mean, he truly moves like a fucking featherweight. I mean, like, you could almost say he moves like a bantamweight. He's so smooth.
It's similar to how people sorry, I mean, but it's
Yeah,
similar how to
go ahead.
people kind of talk about Cyril Gahn. Like he just has such
Yeah,
unique movement for the division.
he has unique movement. I think Aspinall's actually faster. I think he's quicker. I think Gon's
Yeah.
smooth and bigger and longer, but Aspinall I think is quicker. So yeah, dude, I think that Pavlovich's foot speed is going to be interesting here. If Aspinall stays on the outside and then times takedowns, like Aspinall, the big thing that he can't do, man, is like I said, he darts in for too long and then he darts out, and Pavlovich with those super long arms throws a heavy hook on the exit and catches him. That's going to be huge. When Aspinall decides to dart in, it should only be to take down. When he's striking, it should only be like jabs, counter shots, and like you said, leg kicks. That's all it should be, and then make Pavlovich need to close that distance because your feet are a lot faster than his, and then I think he should be able to like land the takedown pretty easily. That the X factor here is how strong is Pavlovich. I mean, the dude is so jacked, and it's like, is he one of those dudes like how Francis would, like, you'd get in so deep on a double leg on Francis, and it's like, that doesn't matter. Like he just
Yeah.
breaks your grip and everything. It's like, okay, well, so is Pavlovich, I don't think anyone's going to be like Francis, but is he strong enough to where Aspinall times it right, gets in deep, and Pavlovich is just like, has
And
like the
how long
heavyweight.
is his gas tank gonna be able to hold up if that happens, right? Too, like maybe he
Yeah.
can do that for a round. He gets back up in the first round, right?
Mhm.
But as that fight goes on,
I'm
Tom
not,
Aspinall
I'm,
could wear on you on top, man.
yeah, I'm not, yeah. And I'm, as far as the gas tanks go in this fight, not too worried because I think both of them, because of how fast and explosive they can be, um, I think both of them will be worn down by towards the end of the second round if it gets there. So I think it'll be a dogfight after the end of the second round, and so it's going to be more about will than gas tank.
Yeah, an interesting bet. I haven't bet it yet. Just looking at it, fight to start round 2 is -104. I think
That's a
that's an
great, yeah, that's
interesting
a very
price, right?
interesting
Like,
one.
because I
Well,
feel like if Tom Aspinall is smart, it's either he's gonna grapple from really early on in the fight, or he's gonna play that. He's gonna try to draw it out, right? Not engage him a lot on the feet that first round.
right.
Yeah, fascinating matchup. Competitively speaking, and for the future of this division, a far more exciting matchup than Jones versus Miocic.
Yeah.
Obviously, you still want to see those guys fight again down the line, right? But it's just for like this is really feels like the real heavyweight championship
Hmm.
here. It's exciting stuff. James, moving along, we've got a 115-pound women's matchup. We've got Jessica Andrade taking on Mackenzie Dern. Jessica Andrade sitting at a +170 underdog right now. Dern, you could have her at -200. James, kick us off on this one, man.
Yeah, man. I got Dern, momentum, youth, athleticism, skill. Like, Andrade is skilled. Um, I just have Dern in every way possible here, but it's really like it's not that I believe so much in Dern. It's that it's just like it's time. Like you're either you know gonna do it or you're not gonna do it, and this is like kind of a fight where this will really show if Mackenzie Dern's for real. She's had her ups and she really hasn't had many downs, but she's had her ups and downs in the UFC. We've seen her weaknesses like when she was younger, but she's at that age now where through training you should who you are right now is who you are. So I think that Dern's gonna win. I think she's just like I had just mentioned all those things, but yeah, Andrade is like the perfect opponent to just like fuck it all up, or to like she's just the perfect opponent to like expose where Dern is, like Mackenzie Dern really is, and where she's going to
Yeah.
be in her career. Because it's like if you aren't like going to live up to that hype that you originally had, Jessica Andrade is the one to expose it, right? Like she's going to be the
Yeah.
one to, yeah. So I mean, because she's a great fighter as well. So I'm big on Dern in this fight, but I certainly don't count Jessica Andrade out. This is the fight to see if Modern or if Modern. I was about to say Moderna. That's not good. But this is the fight to see if Mackenzie Dern can you know be a contender and be a champion.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting fight for sure. Dern, we know she's a submission specialist, great jujitsu. When the fight gets to the ground, she's just really has struggled in her fights that she loses. To get her takedowns aren't great, right? When the fight gets to the ground, awesome.
Mhm.
It's the getting it to the ground that's kind of the issue. With that being said, I think she's going to be able to get Andrade to the ground. I don't think Andrade is, she's not a great defensive wrestler or defensive grappler, and she's not good on the mat at all as far as her defensive grappling goes. She's just really strong, right? So I think maybe that first round, Dern has some trouble. And if it stays standing, obviously Andrade is so powerful for the division. She could finish people, but I actually think Dern's stand-up has been improving a lot. I
Yeah,
think you know, I was looking at one of the bets I was looking at, like Dern by KO is +850. I think that given Andrade how she's looking her last few fights and the potential that Dern can land a big shot mixed with potentially getting a lot of control time on the ground with ground and pound. I think that's kind of a big number. I'm thinking about taking a little sprinkle
that's
on
a
that.
that is a huge number considering the ground and pound aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But at the same time, like you said, it's funny. Andrade would be the perfect person to come fuck this up, right? It's
Hmm.
like there's two ways of looking at it from her standpoint. It's like her last fight on her UFC contract. Is she kind of just looking to get paid, get out of there, maybe go do PFL or move on to the next phase of her career? Or is she actually motivated, wants to stay in the UFC, wants to get a win here to get a new contract? It's an interesting spot for her. At the same time, I think the UFC sees a lot more upside at this point in her career in Mackenzie Dern than
Hmm.
Andrade. So my pick is Andrade. Or I'm sorry, my pick is Dern. I think she's the rightful favorite, and I'm thinking about I have her in a little parlay with Leon Edwards. I've just been parlaying random people with Leon Edwards to
Yeah.
set up a hedge opportunity, but I'm also looking at that plus 850 by knockout. I think is an interesting bet.
Definitely. I think that's a great bet. If I can get my damn FanDuel to work, I gotta call customer service. I gotta do all
Ugh.
this shit now. And it's pissing me off because there's money locked in there. But
Oh, they're doing you super dirty. Yeah, dude, they'll
yeah,
take forever to get
right.
back to you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's annoying as hell. I feel
Hmm.
for you. James, next one on here. We've got a hell of a fight on the main card. We've got
I love how
Matt the
excited you get for this
Oh,
fight.
dude, this
It's
fight
so
is
funny.
so good, dude. We got Matt the Steamroller Frevola taking on Benoit Saint Denis, the God of War, in the 155-pound division. Man, what a matchup this is. We got Matt Steamroller Frevola fighting in front of his hometown in Madison Square Garden, New York. Going to be certainly a pro Matt Frevola crowd at the same time. Saint Denis, the God of War. People love this guy, James. We were talking a little bit about it before the pod. This guy has an Instagram following of 320,000 followers compared to Matt Frevola, 32,000, right? Like
Mhm.
kind of shocking how big of a gap that is. And not just compared to Matt Frevola, compared to a lot of people in the UFC. Like
Mhm.
this guy has the chance to be a star just on that metric alone, right? His social media
That's an
numbers.
important metric.
Yeah, it is. Now let's get into the skill set, right? This guy very like fundamentally sound, like and like not a very diverse skill set as far as the strikes that he throws and what he does, but he's really fucking solid at what he does, right? He's in that southpaw position, he throws that liver kick. It's deadly, man. It's just like a video
Deadly.
game. He spams it over and over. He's got a good cross. His defensive striking not great, right? But he has really like frustrating pressure for people, so that's hard. It kind of makes up for it in that sense. Um, Matt Frevola, not the guy you necessarily want to have bad striking defense again, but I think we've seen that Benoit Saint Denis, he can take a punch, man. He could take a crack. And on top of that, his best aspect mixed with that kind of going along with that pressure is his grappling. Like I think if this fight gets to the ground, like people, we know Frevola is a really good wrestler, has some pretty high credential, like decent jiu-jitsu as well. But I think Saint Denis is just a different level on the ground, man. I think he's so big for the division and so strong that when it gets there, that if he's on top, like I think Frevola, he could really give some problems. So I think in that sense, like the grappling could, not necessarily wash out, but I could see where this ends up staying on the feet, right, for 3 rounds. And if that happens down the stretch, like I favor Saint Denis on volume and pressure because we've seen Frevola at times get KO, get stopped kind of thing. We saw that like Saint Denis, that one fight that should have been stopped, against Eliza dos Santos. That was him going up short notice on like 5 days notice up a weight division against one of the toughest guys in that
Mhm.
division. So I don't I don't rate that fight a
Yeah.
whole lot. All I got from that fight is that this guy is fucking good, and
Mhm.
his chin's gonna hold up against smaller guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. I don't necessarily like. I could see it being a brawl for sure. The ego getting to these guys, but I think that like Saint Denis would be smart to like be a little bit more patient here, but keep that forward pressure going. Really work that body kick. Steamroller. I think for him, it's knockout or bust here. If I'm being honest, I think Saint Denis doesn't have like maybe as diverse of strikes as Matt Frevola, but I think he's really sound everywhere, and I think he's got a big grappling and cardio upside down the stretch. So I'm willing to go with him. I played a little bit on the money line at -210. It's up to like -230 right now, kind of thing. So beat the line a little bit there. Played a little bit on late submission and threw in a parlay with Leon Edwards as well. So
Nice.
we'll see.
That's so
Yeah, what do
funny.
you think, man?
Um, Dude, honestly, I watched some Steamroller Frevola because, he's really a fighter I haven't really watched that much. Like I think I told you that. I was like, all of a sudden he just pops up and oh no, I was talking about Pavlovich, but it's kind of the same with Frevola where it's like he just pops up and this dude's like top 15 right now, And Saint Denis, you told me about him early on. I looked at him. I'm like, he looks good. He is jacked. He looks very angry when he fights. I'm like, I mean, it's a good sell. But then his last couple fights that I've watched, I'm like, oh, this guy is like very legit. He's not super, super athletic, but he's extremely powerful, extremely strong. Um, I'll tell you what, the Frevola, I am going with Sandini in this fight before I like credit the Frevola here, but Frevola, watching the film on him, he reminds me of like when Navy or Army has like 190-pound fullback and they just run over like a Big Ten middle linebacker. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Like he just reminds me of one of those dudes, and he's a guy who I like the essence of Steamroller Frevola. I just underestimate him and really don't think about him. But I'm watching
Yeah.
his highlights and I'm like, God, he is pretty quick. He is really powerful. He's got a good chin. Um, and Saint Denis in his last fight, I forget who it was against, but he towards the end, he did not have to brawl, and he did a little bit, and he got in that ego game. And Steamroller Frevola is going to bring that right to you. And the second that he hits him, Saint Denis, with something, I think this fight's going to turn into an absolute mess. Just
Yeah.
in the middle, and then on one side of the cage, and on the other side of the cage. I think it's going to be a mess of just punches and will, and that's how I see it going. I really hope this fight goes at least into the second round, because I think it'll be insane if it does. And if it goes to decision, I think it'll be outrageous. But the only time I see it get into the ground really is in like weird transitions. Maybe a guy gets rocked and then he shoots in, gets a takedown, or maybe they rock him and he goes down, and then now we're on the ground. I see that both these dudes just maybe being cautious in the beginning and sticking to that game plan, but the second one of them clips each other really hard, I think it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
So, I still got Saint Denis because I think he's just I just think overall he's a better fighter, better mixed martial artist, but similar to the whole Tom Aspinall aspect, right? We say he's a better mixed martial artist, but 4-ounce gloves, dude, brawler, cage fight. Frevola has a
Yeah.
very good chance here.
He does. It wouldn't surprise me, right? Like we said, Frevola hits hard, he's game, and Saint Denis, his like striking defense isn't great,
Right.
by any means. So yeah, man, just such a banger of a fight. And like we talk about why we're so excited, it's because the winner of this is going to get a big fight. It get some excitement in the 155
Yeah.
pound division that, for so long was like the state like considered the best division, right? But it just feels like a little stale lately with some of these guys getting older. And a lot of these younger guys not getting the chance yet.
Not
Or at
getting a
least not
chance.
younger, just at least new names too. Because Frevola isn't
Right.
necessarily young. Saint
Yeah.
Denis is young. Frevola not necessarily young. So
Not getting the chance, and not being able to edge it out against the older guys in many aspects. Like, and
yeah,
that's a big thing. Like Fiziev versus Gaethje. It's like, wow, I thought Fiziev was just going to win that clean.
Gamrot, Benny.
Perfect. Another perfect
Yeah,
example. So these are those guys, and they weren't able to get by those old timers. So it is a very stagnant division, but it's about 50-50 to me as far as performance versus the older guys not taking those fights.
yeah, super fair, super fair. Amazing fight though, and just so looking forward to that one.
Yep.
James, moving along. Last fight on the main card, we got Pat Sabatini taking on Diego Lopes in a 145-pound matchup. Really fascinating fight. We talked a little bit on Monday's episode just about the dynamic of this one, but has anything changed for you over the week doing some tape and stuff?
No, not at all. I think it's the same thing. I think it's Sabatini. I think it's it's weird. It's like, so I think Sabatini can land the takedown, but I also think Sabatini will. I think Lopes can defend the takedown, and then he'll like get that position, that arm position that he wants, get his legs in the right position, and then he'll maybe let Sabatini take him down. But he doesn't realize that I got my arm where I want it. I'm ready to sweep you. I'm ready to cinch up a triangle choke.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get that guillotine in. Dude, I just don't see how Sabatini, especially in round one, maybe Sabatini's going to strike with him and outstrike him.
Bad
But
idea. No way.
you don't
No
think so,
chance,
right?
dude.
So like
No.
I'm like big on the on the Lopes, and it is pretty much even, isn't it? Or maybe Sabatini's a
Yeah,
favorite.
Sabatini slight favorite. He's minus 120. Lopes is plus 100. And yeah, man, in theory, like right, like Sabatini, for him to like kind of cover, it's like he has to really grapple the like 2 out of 3 rounds really effectively.
Mhm.
Um, and like just doing that against a guy like Diego Lopes, who is going to be like the bigger dude, who is lethal from the bottom, is like super aggressive with submissions, and also is going to fuck him up standing up. I
Mhm.
don't know, dude. Like it's a stay away fight for me right now, but it feels like this is the kind of matchup that like people just are on paper are like, yeah, Sabatini, better grappler. Diego Lopes, obviously, like he's comfortable off his back, so he gets held down, controlled. Has got finished on the ground before as far as ground and pound. It just feels like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he's a little bit more physical and too big for Sabatini here. Yeah.
I just I like the threat of the submission and making Sabatini second guess on shooting in and hesitating. And then when you do that, you really leave yourself because now you're letting the other guy read that takedown. And it's similar to like trying to shoot in on Brian Ortega, in my opinion. Like that's how I see Diego Lopez's jiu-jitsu. Is he young? Does he have a lot more to prove? Yeah, but like from what I've seen, I'm like, dude, this
Yeah.
is really high level shit what he's doing.
And I don't think there's any chance that Sabatini isn't going to try to get this fight to the ground
Right.
because I like I said, I just think like Lopes is going to look really big in there. And on the feet, it's just like it's wildly disadvantaged, I think. So
Yeah. This is going to
ex-
tell a lot about Lopez though, like how good he really is or,
totally.
yeah, this is going to tell a lot.
And like to be fair, Sabatini, right? Like he is really good, has
Mhm.
good like ground game, really good jujitsu, really good wrestling. It's just like I don't know. Lopez feels like a guy that the UFC is trying to showcase a little bit and get behind, and just an exciting fighter compared to Pat Sabatini.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. James, moving along, we're in the prelims. We got Steve Erceg taking on Alessandro Costa. Steve Erceg, a minus 205 favorite. Costa sitting at minus 125. I got a bet on eye on this one, James. Erceg in the distance at plus 195. Um, I like, Erceg beat Dvorak in his last fight. Really impressive UFC debut, taking that short notice too. Besides that, he hasn't really fought good competition, so his tape is a little misleading in that sense. But I mean, dude, this guy mixes it up really well. Good jujitsu, good stand up, good cardio, good pace. He's big for the division.
Giant. Giant
Yeah,
for them.
and Costa really does not look big for the division at all in my
No.
eyes. He looks small, and I just think that he's going to have a hard time getting this fight to the ground, getting control time without like Erceg landing something big or at least threatening from the bottom. Because I think, I actually give the BJJ and grappling edge to Erceg here. I kind of just like him everywhere, honestly. So I think I could see Costa getting frustrated after that first round a little bit, having a hard time landing anything because he's going to be so he's going to be so at such a size disadvantage, and not going to be able to get any control time in my eyes. I think Erceg down the stretch could really pull away in this one.
Yeah, dude. Erceg similar to Diego Lopez in his debut, right? Like shocked some
Yeah.
people. Very similar fighting style as well. Yeah, dude. Erceg really impressed me in that first fight. That's all I really need to see. Don't need to see like his prior wins or another thing I love about him. Lost the second fight. I love seeing how many like not that he's incredible, but there's been so many incredible fighters who lose like their first fight or their second fight or their third fight. And I feel like that's when I would quit. You know what I'm saying? I'd be
Yeah,
like,
no, that's
I'm not
right.
good enough to do this. And it just doesn't even phase them. And now they're like unbelievable. Amanda Nunes, Wally Zhang. There's a bunch of men's fighters I can't remember, but yeah, it's wild. McGregor started off like 3-2.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, dude. So Erceg, exa- basically exactly what you said. A little
yeah.
bit like bigger guy, great BJJ, um, stalking pressure, which I love. Costa has a toughness about him though that is a little worrisome, right? Like because if he doesn't show any fear to Erceg when Erceg gets him in bad positions, like in a guillotine or or if he rocks him really hard. It's interesting to see how a young fighter like Erceg reacts to that. So that's a huge X factor. Otherwise, I have Erceg, but I'm not sleeping on Costa at all.
Yeah, super fair, man. Cool, man. Moving along, we're back to the women's division. We've got Tabatha Ricci taking on Lupita Godinez in a 115-pound strawweight matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Ricci is plus 150 right now. I screwed up. I got her a little earlier in the week, plus 142. I could have waited a little bit, got a little bit better number. That's all right. It's pretty close. Loopy minus 180. James, I've seen Loopy getting a lot of love on Twitter, on Instagram and stuff this week. I'm very curious to what you got to say about this fight.
Loopy plays to the scorecards a lot. Her style plays to the scorecards, I should say. To me, these two are pretty much equal as far as I consider MMA fighters. Of course, I try to operate on the Diaz system. You know, the fight's not over unless you finish it. But I think Loopy's going to be able to take her down and control her a lot. I don't think she's going to be able to do much. I think she's going to be able to squeak some rounds out and get the decision victory. I don't know what the odds are on a decision right now, but I feel like that's the way it's going to go. Ricci or whatever, she's they're just both solid fighters, but I think Loopy has a little more upside. Not much more, but just a little more upside. And I think her style, she knows how to win on the scorecards more so. So I'll take her in this fight. But this is a fight where I consider both mixed martial artists pretty even.
Yeah. You make good points, as far as it being even. That I guess that's kind of why I lean towards the Ricci side at like plus 150. I made that bet just because I think that maybe this fight is a little closer than that. Like
I think it's definitely closer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a true pick 'em to me, so I'm happy to take that chance. Like Loopy, in theory, the better wrestler, in the better striker, higher volume striker, more control time upside, I think. With that said, though, dude, Loopy to me sort of struggles against people who have decent grappling, right? Like that's where when she has that advantage where she can go 5 for 5 on takedowns, 4 or 5 on takedowns with 7 minutes of control time. Like that's where she excels. And I don't think Ricci is that type of fighter to where that's going to happen, because Ricci is a really good grappler, dude. Really good jiu-jitsu, really strong. Not convinced at all that Loopy is gonna be able to get her down and hold her down for rounds at a time. And I think that Ricci's striking and volume, at least based on her last fight against Jillian Robertson, it's improving, right? Like she had a huge uptick in striking. Her cardio's good. I don't know. I just think it's a closer fight than this line suggests. And like I said, when people give Loopy a little bit of give her some problems in the grappling department, Jessica Penny, Angela Hill, that fight is a little bit closer than I think she expects, and she tends to wilt a bit, or at least the fights are. She does things that don't look good, with the optics, just gets landed on a bit, and I think that Ricci, people are going to say, like I said, on theory, Loopy's the better wrestler and stuff. I think Ricci, just in general, might be the better MMA grappler with this fight hits the ground. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Ricci finding control time, finding some type of sub. Maybe that's a hot take, but I'm happy to take the shot at Ricci at plus 150. Plus 142 is technically what I got it at.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I'm gonna look out for that then in that fight, as far as Ricci's grappling goes.
Right on, man. Moving along, we've got a 155-pound matchup. We got Mateusz. Oh, sorry, I skipped one, James. I'm going to backcheck one big. We've got a 155-pound matchup. We got Nazim Sadykhov taking on Slava Borschev. Fun fight, dude. Kick us off. What do you think about this one?
I think Nazim's pretty good, man. I'm that was all I wrote down in my notes. Actually, I'm like, he's good. He's commits to his shots, which is really important. Has a lot of confidence in himself. So it seems like when he's fighting. angry looking fighter, classic, Middle Eastern, like slash, like Russia, just like fights with like those bad intentions. You know what I'm saying? And he, yeah, dude.
They're a Longo guy too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so dude, yeah, so he's just from what I saw, he's got good power. His fight with Terrence McKinney was interesting. It shows how like I felt like he was just way more of a dog than McKinney in that fight. And you know, will to win. Having said that, Slavikov's the big X factor for me is just gonna be if Nazim's striking looks good against a guy like Slavikov's, right? Because Nazim's grappling maybe isn't like it's there, but is it great enough? Like, it's there, so I believe he can take down Slavikov's, but it's not like guaranteed, even though Slava's takedown defense is bad. But yeah,
Can
I
he
don't
hold
know.
him down, right? Like
Yeah, can he
I think
hold
we think he can get him down. It's the holding him down.
I essentially what I'm getting at is if Nazim's striking can keep up with Slava's striking, I think he gets those takedowns easy, and I think he maybe finishes the fight. But if there's a big gap in that striking, with Nazim's confidence in himself, in his striking, Slava could land something huge in the first round and just end the thing. So that's sort of how I see the fight playing out.
Yeah, well put, man. I think Nazim would be smart if he mixes this up. I think he could look like a huge favorite because
Yeah,
Slava has really some of the worst takedown defense in the history of the UFC.
we've,
It's just
we've talked about
horrible.
it many times.
Yeah, he's a great striker, and people love to get behind him because big personality. He does his Slava dance if he wins,
Mhm.
and is, like, to be fair, an electric striker, like so
Electric.
technical, has
Yeah.
some really sneaky power, really quick. It's just he comes from that kickboxing and Muay Thai background. It has no grappling.
Hmm.
And I just think, I think that I trust Sadykhov's camp. I think that they're gonna mix in some of that wrestling and stuff. So I'm staying off this one for now, but I like Sadykhov to win this fight. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'll say
I'm
that.
with you.
Cool, man. 155-pound division. We've got Mateusz Rebecki taking on short notice replacement
Yeah.
Roosevelt Roberts. Man, James, on paper, so Rebecki is a -700 favorite, Roosevelt Roberts +500 underdog. And I get that on paper, right? Like Rebecki, 18-1. He's a savage, good wrestling and top control, gross ground and pound, submission threat, standing, powerful striker, good pressure, good cardio, nasty leg kicks, like really powerful leg kicks, chops you down, and has a really impressive record. I don't know, dude. The thing that has me hold it up, right? Like, in theory, Rebecki has all the skills to win this fight and is gonna and should really cover this line. It's just, I don't know, dude. Roberts is going to be huge compared to Rebecki, and I know that's not
Hmm.
necessarily nothing new to Rebecki, but Roberts isn't like a scrub. Like, he's a pretty skilled dude. You know what I mean? Like, good
Yeah.
jab, like nasty guillotine. It's just he's had some meme happenings in the UFC, some of his KOs and stuff like that. It's just but just for reference, like Rebecki, 5'7", 66-inch reach. Roberts, 6'1", 73-inch reach, right? Like, if he can, I know Rebecki has that forward pressure, but if Roberts can use his footwork and that jab and that reach to kind of separate a bit, keep Rebecki at distance, keep him from landing super clean. I mean, plus 500 is a huge number. I'm not saying I'm playing it or recommending. I just think that I would hesitate as far as throwing Rebecki as a parlay piece here, especially against when it's a short notice replacement. What do you think, man?
Dude, I think after watching Roberts on The Ultimate Fighter and sort of seeing his personality style and seeing how it played out, I thought he was the most talented fighter on that show, and he lost, which is why I think Rebecki, yeah, he could eat some shots. Like, Robert's athletic. He's got fast hands. Like you said, he has a really fast jab, and he's not a slouch on the ground. Like, he can finish you from the ground.
Mhm.
I think Rebecki just dogs him a little. I think he dogs him, and I think Roberts is going to be faced with a guy who's a lot more of a tougher guy, just a tougher, more just straight up more badass dude. Like not,
Yeah,
you
he's a
know, doesn't
savage, dude. Rebecki's a
he's just a
savage.
savage, straight up. And like his mindset going into the fight versus what I think Roberts' mindset is going in the fight after watching The Ultimate Fighter, because I thought Roberts was great when he was in the UFC prior. Like I thought he was going to be a really good fighter. So I think that's how this fight goes. Roberts maybe wins the first round, comes close, or makes it really competitive. I think Rebecki just takes over second, third round, and maybe gets the finish. Roberts, obviously, he's got that power, he's got that finishing ability, can always finish it, but I think it only happens in the first round. And I think mentally he wilts to Rebecki's pressure and wrestling and all that later on in the fight, especially on short notice.
Yeah, well said, well said. Moving along, James, you've got a 155-pound matchup. We got Jared Gordon taking on Mark Madsen. Man, Jared Gordon, some bad luck lately, right?
Just the
Robbed.
oddest fighter, hilarious, but keep
Yeah,
going.
weird
Yeah.
stretch for him here. Feel for him a bit. Got robbed in the Patty fight, in a fight that I think most people clearly thought he won. His last fight out looked good against Bobby Green, was piecing him up on the feet, and Bobby Green threw a bullshit headbutt. Ended that fight. Yeah, man. Marco Madsen, we know, listen, this guy's the Olympic wrestler, Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler. He's got it's interesting, right? Because we don't see Greco-Roman translate that much to the UFC, to MMA, is so much as freestyle, folk style. But Madsen's got crazy like body throws, crazy upper body strength. The way he like pulls dudes onto the ground is really interesting, like from the high body
Yeah.
lock. It's just like he's not great at holding down guys that can also
No.
grapple, right? Like it's just constant trying to go back for that takedown after he gets him down. Doesn't have really a submission threat at all. Like his jiu-jitsu I rate very low. Gordon should have a very high grappling edge here as far as the jiu-jitsu goes. Maybe he gets taken down, but I just don't expect at all to Gordon to like be held down by Madsen. Like we saw Gordon get held down by a guy like Grant Dawson, but that's because Grant Dawson goes for that body triangle and is elite at that, right? Like if he gets that position, he's almost as good as anyone in MMA with that. It's like you're not like understandable where that could struggle. Marco Madsen doesn't really have that type of control. Gordon, man, I mean, he really should win this fight. You know what I mean? It's just at like minus 215 favorite or whatever, like what with his luck has been, you know what I mean? It's just like I'm having a hard time getting around to any betting on him. But the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I really think he should be the rightful favorite here. It's just he's got some weird juju going around, you know?
Yeah, dude. I think it's kind of funny because I think that when he fought Bobby Green and how well he was doing, it made me think of like maybe Patty losing to him wasn't as, even though he won, but maybe Patty's performance against him wasn't as bad as like we wanted to make it out to be. Like maybe Jared Gordon's a top 15 fighter, and if Patty loses to him or whatever puts on that performance against him, it's not as bad as we think.
I think that's a great point, honestly. I think that's a really
Yeah,
fair point.
and yeah. So this is the fight, right, for Gordon. I mean, this is very very simple for me. It's like this fight shows me if the Patty performance, which he lost, right? If the Bobby Green first round performance, which he got headbutt KO'd, but like you said, bad luck. Both like I was like, wow, he's good. Like he's a good mixed martial artist. This is the fight where it's like, all right, beat Madsen. Like he's 39.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, great wrestler, great at takedowns. Bad like can't hold guys down. Sometimes these dudes who are amazing wrestlers are amazing because they pick you up, they throw you down, they get the points, and then you're like, you get back up, and then they pick you up, throw you down, get the points, and then they tech you or whatever.
Yeah.
Not even really pin you. So yeah, that's kind of how Madsen reminds me. It's not like wrestling style that like translates great in MMA.
Yeah, it's that Greco-Roman. It's the throws, and that doesn't emphasize pinning or, extended control time.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is the fight for Jared Gordon to win. I think it would be very Jared Gordon-esque to like just lose this fight and like it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's it then. But like if he
Yeah.
wins, like he can easily like, move up the ladder a little bit. And I don't know. I think he's from what I see, he looks like a pretty solid fighter.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, how like Matt Frevola was calling out Patty for a long time, kind of thing. I just think that there's a lot of interesting things that they could do with Jared Gordon.
Yeah.
Like they could book him to face the winner of Hooker Bobby Green if he wins this fight, right?
Yep.
Like if Bobby Green wins that, they could do a rematch kind of thing, probably. Or they could, if they both lose, they could rebook that rematch. Or if he wins, he gets the Patty fight again. Or if he wins, he gets like
Ferguson.
he gets someone like who'd you say?
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, Tony. Or
Yeah.
totally love it. Like just or like the someone from the Frevola or Benoit Saint Denis
Yeah.
fight. You know what I mean? It's just one of those. It's an interesting position. And Madsen, like Jared Gordon's not young or whatever. Like he is 35, but Madsen I think is almost 40, 38 or
Yeah, he's
39.
39.
Some in that range. Yeah. So I don't know. It just feels like Jared Gordon is like the much better mixed martial artist and still has a little bit of gas in the tank. But yeah, should be an interesting fight.
Yep.
All right, man. We got a catchweight 138-pound matchup coming at you this next fight. We've got Kyung-ho Kong taking on John Castaneda. James, why don't you kick us off on this one, man?
I love Young Hong Kong. I think that he's such a badass fighter. I wish he wasn't 36. I think he's a guy who maybe like if he was like 5 years younger, could make some serious noise in this sport. But
dude, he had the 4-year Korean gap for the
yeah,
military
dude.
service.
Was
Yeah.
it that? Was it
Yeah,
that?
it was.
Fuckers, man.
Yeah.
They get him on that. What can you do though? Whatever. But they need the army. Like how small of a country is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
understandably.
but like,
They
dude,
need as many Kyung-ho Kongs and
they,
Korean zombies on their
they do.
squad as they fucking can,
They do. Badass, submission artist, power on the feet, technical, warrior spirit, like literally everything that I want to see in a fighter.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. The only thing that worries me a little bit is who's he fighting again? You just said I can't
John
remember.
Castaneda.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I'm big on Kong in this fight. Yeah, dude. I just really like him as a fighter. I like watching his film, and then I'm like the film translated to the last couple fights I watched. Probably a guy who I wouldn't have paid attention to honestly if we didn't do this podcast. But a guy who I now root for like anytime he's fighting.
Yeah.
And I really want him to get up there fast because 36 is old, but you can still do a little damage at that age and get up there fast and see what he can do against some top dudes.
Yeah, totally, man. I love everything you said. And all those reasons that you said you liked him, like getting behind him, that's exactly what you're looking for in an underdog too, right?
Right.
Like, so I already bet him. I bet him at plus 124. The line's come down a little bit, so I feel happy about that line. What's crazy, dude? He's technically been fighting in the UFC since 2013.
Insane.
This dude's a fucking absolute veteran. But you covered about everything on the Kong side. I really like his jab, and I like how he works behind his jab. And the one thing that worries me with him is when he fights against people that can control him on the ground, which I don't think is easy, but certain guys have shown that they can. With that said, so Castaneda, right, southpaw, mixes up his strikes well. He has really good forward pressure, but he doesn't look so great when people are willing to pressure back. And Kong is gonna pressure back for sure, right? We saw in his fight against Daniel Santos, like he came so close to finishing Santos, but Santos just had those crazy like shoot a box vitamins, zombie vitamins. He couldn't finish the guy. And then Castaneda ended up gassing out, right?
Yeah.
I really like, I think Kong's cardio is good, man. I think that if he's coming with that forward pressure and working behind that jab for the first round or two, that could really give Castaneda some problems late. In his fight, Castaneda's fight against Gafarov, like he got the takedown late in round 3, and he controlled the fight for like the last 2 minutes on the ground. It's just like I don't know. I think that Mr. Perfect Kong has a better ground game than Castaneda does have like a top game. I think that
Yeah.
maybe he can get him down and get the takedowns. I'm just not convinced he holds him down. And standing up, I just think, the volume maybe worries me a little bit about Kong. But yeah, I just think he's a dog, and I think he's gonna come through in this underdog spot here. Well, a guy I'm
Yeah.
willing to put a little underdog shot on for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dude, he's great.
All right, man.
Who do we got?
We've got 2 more fights here. We got Joshua Van taking on Kevin Borjas in a 125-pound matchup here. Joshua Van, a minus 225 favorite. Borjas plus 185 underdog. James, this fight, to me, very even standing up on the feet, right? So I'm trying to see where this line kind of comes from, like this huge separation, this minus 225 to plus 185. I really think it just comes down to like Van being younger, like not that Borjas is old, but Van's like only 22. I just think he's like this really like talented physical prospect who has a really good striking game already and who has like only gotten better with his grappling. And I think Borjas really struggles against good grapplers, decent grapplers. And I think that like Van, if he's smart, he's going to come out and mix in that grappling and honestly could, I think, cover that minus 225 like pretty easily. Borjas, the Peruvian, he's just not a great defensive grappler. Gets control on the ground. He's willing to throw up submissions, but I just think it's going to be hard to do against a guy like Van, who's really strong. Yeah, man. If the fight stays standing up, I think it could be a really close, greasy fight. But I'm kind of expecting Van to mix the marshals here, if you know what I mean. So that's how I
Yeah.
see this one kind of going out. Maybe like a Van by decision, Van late prop kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't watch a lot of film on this fight. Watched YouTube highlights for 2 minutes on
Sure.
basically each one or whatever. Dude, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Van gets a little bit of that KO action. Just from
Nice.
but like
Yeah.
I said, not a well studied fight, so I'm not willing to put my stamp on it or whatever. But yeah, like you said, athleticism. To me, he just seems like a guy who, if he doesn't have the power now, he's going to get the power later. Yeah, I'm interested to see if he can get land a big shot and end this fight early. That's but like I said, didn't deep dive in on these guys. These guys are too young. I say this very often, but too young, too early in their careers for me to like start going back in there when they were fighting in front of 20 people. I need to watch them fight once or twice in the UFC to really like gauge an opinion on it.
Yeah. Super fair, man. Cool. Moving along. The last fight we'll talk about here. Thanks so much, everyone, for sticking with us. This is going to be the first fight on the prelims. It looks like we got Denis Bazooka taking on Jamal Emmers in a 145-pound matchup. James, right now, Bazooka, you can get him at plus 210, plus 220 range. Emmers minus 270. I put a small bet on Bazooka about a week ago at plus 260. Got a good number on the line. It's obviously that's better than plus 220. I think Bazooka, like, man, I think he isn't as bad. People like are like talking about like he's like really bad and stuff, and I don't necessarily see that on tape. I see a guy who's coming in on short notice and like also is like kind of raw and just improving. Doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Emmers has a lot of experience, but like, man, does that dude make some boneheaded fucking decisions in his fights, dude? And like his last fight against Jack Jenkins, he had like for 3 rounds he had the opportunity to grapple and he waited till the very end to do it, and he lost a split decision because of it. I thought he won the fight, but it's like if you're gonna be an idiot, and he's like done that before, right? Like that's not the only time he's done that. If you're gonna play that game and make fights closer than you need
He
to
does
be,
that.
Against like a prospect like Bazooka, who I actually think is like has some decent tools, has some good physical attributes himself. Like for Embers to be like minus 270, no way. I'm just like minus 300 when I place that bet or whatever. Like no chance. I just not willing to take him there. I think I'm willing to take the shot on Bazooka. Last thing I'll say, other side of that, right, is like Bazooka. We saw him in his UFC debut, short notice, against Sean Woodson, who's like a tall, lanky guy from the division. Very similar archetype in that sense to Emmers, and Emmers actually probably has a better grappling overall, like top games, control game, than Woodson did. And we saw Woodson get the fight to the ground at times too. But on a full camp here, man, I think Bazooka at plus 260, it's a little wide, willing to take the shot. The Serra-Longo guy, comes from a good camp. And like I said, they got good vitamins over there and a good game plan. And on a full camp, I think he's going to look like a different fighter here.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to go with Emmers. I just think he's just a better martial artist. I think Emmers is a really, really, really good martial artist. But like you said, dude, he just, to me, he's just a little too defensive and a little too much like wants to out land you 20 to like 16, like do things like that, or 2 takedowns to 1, or a minute of ground time compared to 45 seconds, or like however you want to say it. He just lets the fight be way too close. Like you said in the Jenkins fight, I thought he won the fight, but why was it that close? And yeah, dude. So Emmers is a guy I truly believe that you could put him in against a top 15 dude, against any top 15 dude, even any top 10 dude, and he will not only hold his own, but I think he could win, some of those fights as well. But it's like you can't play down to your opponent, and that's what he does really badly. So I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, man. It's like he fights up to competition and then fights down to competition.
Yes, you just can't do it. And I'm gonna go with him. But that's what makes it so hard from a betting aspect with him being such a big favorite, right? So yeah, dude. But he's very talented. Like watching him, I'm like, wow, this guy's very, very good.
Yeah. It's just some of these boneheaded moves, like looking at his fucking shit, like his record right now, right? Like the Sabatini fight, he got heel hook in like that meme position where they're like double heel hooking each other.
Yeah.
Like Emmers had the good position and stuff and fucked himself.
Yeah.
Against Giga, right? Similar thing with the Jack Jenkins fight. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, round 3, I'm gonna take you down without any problem and control you, right? Like, should have done that like a round or 2 ago. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been a clear separation there. It's just, yeah, man. When you fight down your competition and they put you at like a minus 300 favorite, it's like, there's no way I can bet on you, and I'm willing to bet against even at this point. So,
right, yep.
James, so excited for this card, dude.
Pumped. I should be real quick. I should be good. I'm definitely good on the main event, the main card. I'll be watching around 7, 8 my time, Central Time. Sure. So I'll let you know when you can text me when I'm caught up and blah blah blah.
Sounds good, man. I'm getting out of the recording studio like 6 p.m. my time, just in time for everything. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be an awesome day.
Yes.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back Monday, get a recap and everything, and talk about the next card. And again, thanks for listening.